All right, folks, Yishai Fleischer here in my Hebron studios. I'm thinking that maybe May 14th should from now on be called Qatar Day, or maybe Jihad Day. And that's because on May 14th, the leader of the free world, Donald Trump, went to Qatar and signed with them a $1.3 trillion cooperation package. This is a huge windfall for the Qataris. And the Qataris, if you don't know, are huge supporters of Hamas. So do you think that Hamas is happy today or sad today? They're happy, right? The leadership of Hamas sits in Doha, Qatar, and there's no doubt that there's a windfall for them as well, for their bosses, for the owners of the organization. Hamas is happy, Qatar is happy, and other elements like Al Jazeera is happy, right? Al Jazeera, this amazing network that Qatar created to teach jihadism around the world in Arabic, straight out pro-Hamas jihadism, in English, jihad apologetics and anti-Israelism. So that's what happened yesterday. I have to tell you that I can't help but be impressed by Qatar. You're not going to like that language. You're going to be like, Yishai, you're sick. What do you mean impressed? Well, even enemies do amazing things. Qatar is smaller than Israel. It's half the size of Israel. It's a much smaller population than Israel. And we're talking about two tiny countries. But look what Qatar has achieved. They set out a strategic goal to take over American campuses. And they did. They set out a strategic goal to take over American corporations. They did. And there's an article in the Free Press called How Qatar Bought America. It's not just a 747. The investigation reveals that the Gulf state has spent almost $100 billion across Congress, colleges, think tanks, and corporations. And then they ask, what does it want in return? Okay. So basically, Qatar has had a strategic vision about how to spend money, right? In colleges, in corporations, in real estate, lots of real estate in America. And if you're interested in real estate, like Witkoff is, right? And so is President Trump. If you're interested in affecting young people's minds, you go to colleges. If you want to change people's minds in Washington, you start listening to their lobbyists who are Qatari paid. And the lobbyists themselves are like, well, these guys pay real well, so I'm going to lobby for Qatar on the Hill. So you got colleges, you got Washington politics, you got corporations, you got real estate, and of course the creation of an amazing media outfit called Al Jazeera, which is just spreading anti-Israelism, hate, pro-Hamasism throughout the world. Now, all that stuff was done in the background. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew that there's a lot of Qatar in Washington and on campus. Everybody knew that, but it was still very background. Now, suddenly, it's foreground. Boom! All that investment. And suddenly, President Trump is there, and he's receiving a $400 million airplane, but that's just the tip of the iceberg because they're signing a huge deal. And what do you think? What do you think the jihadis are thinking today? Do you think the jihadis are like, oh, no, President Trump has signed a deal with Qatar. Now they're going to westernize us. No, they're like, I can't believe how smart we are. I can't believe it. With all their strategic investments, they have managed to penetrate America, first behind the scenes. Now it's totally frontal. It's totally frontal. And everybody knows that they're pro-jihad all the way. And there's going to be more pro-jihadism in America now. America has been bought. And they did it, by the way, so smartly, really. And again, like, if you think I'm joking, I'm not. I really think that Qatar should be studied and understood and in a sense, respected for the way that they've operated. They wanted to create an international media. Boom, they created Al Jazeera, and it's gotten better and better and better. And they've gotten good at teaching people their brand of ideology, of Israel hate, of pro-Hamasism, of October 7th. You understand that Qatar helped plan October 7th. They helped fund October 7th. They've helped fund Hamas since October 7th. Their Al Jazeera media outlet has taught pro-October 7th since October 7th. And so they've just become so much stronger. So every pro-Hamas person in the world is like, yes, Qatar Day. Our people are winning. And on the other side, I think it's a big question mark about Israel. Is Israel poorer than Qatar? I don't know. If we can talk about serious GDP of creativity and production, there's a lot more people in Israel. we're very creative here in Israel, but the strategic outlook about how to create pro-Israelism around the world, we're horrible at it. Clearly, the Qataris are way better at making Hamas cool around the world than Israel knows how to make Israel cool around the world, right? We don't have that kind of investment in colleges and corporations. We're just happy when somebody buys Waze. We're like, good, somebody invested in us and bought out our company. In the meantime, Qatar is buying companies. Qatar is investing in companies. Qatar is creating media and taking over campuses and taking over Washington as well. So I sometimes think to myself, is Israel, do we have that kind of vision? That kind of creative vision about how to sell our ideology around the world? Is Judaism as popular as jihadism? Is Israel's strength what everybody wants to see? Are we using money in the same strategic way that Qatar is doing it? I'm not saying that we want to be evil and spread jihadism, quite the opposite. But are we as forward thinking as they are? So I don't think that we are. And I think that right now Israel is much more alone than it was yesterday. That's because the Hamas is much stronger, and that I think that President Trump is going to have a lot less negative to say about Qatar or their friends in Turkey or the Iranian interests in their jihadism. Maybe there's a deal that could be cut there. Saudi Arabia, I don't know which way they're going to go in terms of jihadism. But the bottom line is Israel is a much smaller country today than it was yesterday, because Qatar is much, much bigger. It's much, much closer. Obviously, they also have the biggest, one of the biggest army bases that the United States has outside of the continental U.S., and that's where CENTCOM is. And so basically you have this tiny state becoming bigger, much bigger. And Israel, I think in this moment, a little bit smaller, surrounded by jihadism in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria. Hamas is stronger. So there's more Qatar and less Israel today. And as if to make that point so sharply and so poignantly and so painfully, last night, as we were going to sleep, news started coming out that a Jewish woman, her name was Tzahala Gez, was heading to the hospital to give birth to a child, and she and her husband were shot at, and she was killed. And her unborn child was C-sectioned and is still fighting for his life. But the bottom line is that her life was taken by that very same jihadism that Qatar supports. So a dead Jewish mother, Qatar much bigger, and Israel shrunken and without as much of a clarity of how it's supposed to deal here in the Middle East, how it's supposed to lead here in the Middle East, how it's supposed to push back on Turkey and Hamas and a belligerent Egypt and an infiltrated Jordan, which has more and more jihadism in it, and a belligerent leader against Israel, and Iran, which is also strong in Iraq and Yemen. So we are surrounded by enemies, and the United States of America is now cozying up with Qatar. And I don't doubt that also more evangelicals, more pro-Israel, pro-Bible Christians are going to they're going to go along with the winner. That's what people do around here and around the world, really. They go for winners. People want to see winners, they want to follow winners. And yesterday was not a win for freedom, for liberty, for the United States. Not at all. It was a moment where haters became much stronger. So what are we going to do? We're going to keep celebrating Qatar Day. No, I don't think we're going to keep celebrating Qatar Day. We're going to have to push back, but we're also going to have to welcome this challenge. Okay, we're going to have to say, hey, you know what? We've been challenged. And we, Israel, have got to have a bigger vision, not a little ghetto vision of survival, not talk about the hostages all day long and feel the pain, see my pain, and I want you to see that I'm a victim as well. Not all that kind of talk, but rather talk of strength, of leadership, of strategic money, of pushing back on the jihadism. Show President Trump, show the world that we will absolutely not stand for a stronger Hamas in our borders, on our borders, in our country. We will destroy them. Show them right now. Show them the minute after the deal, so that Qatar Day will always be remembered as the day that we wiped out Hamas at the very same time. Okay? Show them that. And then they'll remember that we mean business. Make alliances with pro-Israel countries around the world. Show them that Israel's got a strategic vision. Start teaching the Bible and Israel and Hebrew and all that stuff in the colleges. Find more ways of influence. Create media that will teach the future, the next generation, about the miracle and the beauty of Israel and why it's important to the world. If not, then if you allow that vacuum to be there, then instead jihadism will rule, and they will celebrate May 14th as Qatar Day. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Don't be afraid. We got to be strong. The God of Israel is with us. Don't forget to support us. Fightforisrael.org, fightforisrael.org, and buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Wherever you are, the God of Israel is with you. When you love Israel, you send us blessings. We send you right back. Check out our new store. Please subscribe, like, comment, ring that little bell, and we'll be with you, Bezrat Hashem, from this good land, the Holy Land, where God is doing great things. Lots of love and lots of blessings, and shalom.